James.
Hi, my name is James, and this is James Loves Games, and this is an Xbox fan ranking PlayStation exclusive games that I have beaten. In December of 2020, I managed to get my hands on a PS5 after seeing all the videos and all of the gameplay and everything planned for the system. I was so hyped. I had to get a PlayStation for the first time in 2 gaming generations. PlayStation 5 has changed my mind completely. The system is amazing. It's honestly one of the best, if not the best system I've ever owned. And I've been around for a while. So when I say the PlayStation 5 is one of the best systems I've ever played, it carries a lot of weight because I've played a lot of different systems. Something that's been especially good for me is the fact that it is backwards compatible and it plays all of the PlayStation 4 games that I missed out on. So I'm going to use this video as an opportunity to talk about my favorite PlayStation exclusives that I missed out on the PlayStation 4, as well as some that have come out on the PlayStation 5. Having said that, let's jump right in. I'm going to be starting with number 6, and I already know that a lot of you are going to be very upset with this. Number 6 of the PlayStation exclusives that I have beaten since I got a PS5. Ba-bow! The Last of Us Remastered. More like The Least of Us. I understand the extreme emotional weight that comes along when talking about this game. People love this game. People say this is the greatest game of all time. The fact that there's a number 6 next to it should tell you otherwise. The Last of Us, for those of you who don't know, came out in 2013 on the PlayStation 3, and it was later remastered for the PlayStation 4. I played the remastered PS4 version on the PlayStation 5. I want to say first of all that all of the games that I have played have been really good. None of these are bad games necessarily. It's just that of the 6 that I have beaten for the PlayStation, this one's at the bottom, and I'll tell you why. The gameplay is a little dated, okay? And when I say a little dated, I mean it's not fun. None of the controls are very intuitive. It seems like they kind of wanted to start from scratch and do their own thing with how the game controlled, and it just didn't really work for me. I also happened to be playing a lot of other games around the same time and kind of swapping between them, streaming this and that. And so my head would kind of get mixed up as far as what I was supposed to do with the controls. But most of the other games I didn't have any problems with. It would take me a few minutes to sort of shake off the rust and get back into things, but The Last of Us, I really struggled just with building some kind of muscle memory to be able to play the game without having to constantly think about which button does what. And so it was a big hindrance for me. But more so than that, the hype leading up to this game was overwhelming. The views that I got on The Last of Us videos were way higher than most of the other ones. And so I know people really hype this game up, and I see it so many times on like best game of all time lists and things of that nature. And I think the expectation was just too unreasonably high for me. It was good, and I'll say it did have a really good story. It's not the best story I've ever seen, but it was certainly very good and compelling. You had relatable characters. It moved along at a good pace, and it kept me engaged. But I honestly think that this would have been a much better miniseries or movie than a game. And it kind of seems like it was designed that way. It was like they had a really good story, they had really good characters and a really good setting, and then they thought, well, let's add some game mechanics to that. Whereas I would prefer it if you had just a really fun game that happened to have a good story. The Last of Us gets to languish at the bottom of the list until such time as I find a game that somehow manages to be worse than it. Number 5 on the list is also going to be somewhat controversial, as this is a very beloved game that a lot of people consider to be the pinnacle of its very specific genre, and it is Bloodborne. Now, those of you familiar with my channel know that I have spent a great deal of time making videos about Dark Souls and Dark Souls style games. So Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, Dark Souls 3, and I'm really super hyped to play Elden Ring, the sort of next installment in this spiritual series of games. Within the Soulsborne community, many people consider Bloodborne to be the pinnacle of all of them. And I heartily disagree. On its own, it's not a bad game, and I think that the problem that comes along with it for me is it being compared to other games like Dark Souls. And I really, really liked Dark Souls 1. I started playing it while I was trying to actively get a PS5, and I really, really enjoyed Dark Souls a lot. And people were saying, oh, Bloodborne's the best. It's way better. Blah, da, blah, da, blah. It suffers from the super unrealistic high expectations that The Last of Us did for me. Everyone had already played it, and they said, it's the best. And so I jumped in thinking it's the best, and it turns out it wasn't. It was still very good, but the reason I didn't quite like it as much as Dark Souls is mostly the pace. Where in Dark Souls, I really enjoyed playing with a sword and shield. I could kind of take my time. Bloodborne takes kind of very similar mechanics, streamlines them a bit, and makes it to where you don't even have a shield, you have a pistol. And so it encourages you to be more engaged constantly and be more aggressive with the enemies. And it just wasn't my playstyle. And I felt very uncomfortable having played Dark Souls in a very defensive posture. I should also state that in Bloodborne, you have blood vials that you use to heal yourself. And you have bullets that you pick up for your pistol. And you can actually run out of these items. One of the things that in Dark Souls, that is one of the pivotal game mechanics, is the Estus Flask, where it's a healing potion that you get a certain amount of when you rest at a bonfire. And so every time you rest or die, you get all of those back. You get your maximum amount. But in Bloodborne, you don't. And so if you run out, you have to go find some more. And so I ran into this problem early on in the game where I had no blood vials and I had no bullets. And it made the game that much more difficult. And I much prefer the Estus system in Dark Souls, which I think makes a lot more sense. Other than that, I didn't really care for the setting that much either. I much preferred the medieval knights and dragons of Dark Souls over the sort of Victorian era beast hunter, werewolf, gothic architecture aesthetic that they went for. It's not bad by any stretch. It kind of wore me down after a while. And by the end of the game, I was really looking forward to it just being over. It was a pretty good game, but I don't see myself jumping back into it. But it was still more fun than The Last of Us. So coming in at number 4 on our list, one that I think is quite comfortable in this spot. In our first PlayStation 5 game on the list, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. I obviously, like everybody else, got this game fairly recently. I had a special birthday stream because it came out on my birthday, and I just played the snot out of this game for like a good 2 weeks until I got the platinum. It's a fantastic game. It's really fun. It's beautiful. It's the perfect showcase for all of the new hardware in the PlayStation 5 with the SSD, quick loading, the beautiful particle effects, and just the smoothness of the gameplay. Everything is just great. It runs great, looks great, it's super fun, it's really funny, got a fantastic story. It's just so short. It's such a short game. I played it for about 15 hours, and I got the platinum too. I got a platinum trophy for this game in 15 hours, and it's just way too short for a game that really, once you play through it, there's nothing else to do. Once you get the platinum, there's a few other extra things. You can upgrade some sort of new variants of weapons and things like that, but there's just no point to it. And so it's got to stay at number 4. It was super fun while it lasted. I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it. But it's just not a good game if you're going to binge it, because it's going to be over before you know it, and then you're going to be left with just nothing. So, great game, much too short. All right, next on our list is number 3, another PlayStation 5 exclusive game. And another one that I feel sits very comfortably in this position, at least for me, Demon's Souls. Now, this is a new remake for the PlayStation 5. It was a launch title, and it was one of the reasons I really, really wanted a PlayStation 5. And one of the reasons I got into the Dark Souls series of games. As soon as I saw the first gameplay of Demon's Souls, way back, I think in September of 2020, I had to have this game. It was so gorgeous. It just looked so immersive, and it was so smooth at 60 frames per second in 4K and everything. It was just, this is the most beautiful game I'd ever seen up to that point. And probably still today, it was like a dream come true and I had to get my hands on it. But I felt like I needed to earn it. And so that's how I started playing Dark Souls on the Xbox One. And that's how I got down this huge rabbit hole of these ridiculous, difficult games. They're so wonderful. And Demon Souls is a great entry point into the series because it's certainly a difficult game. But compared to a lot of the others in the series, it's probably the easiest one of all the Soulsborne type games. And while a lot of the bosses are kind of cheesy, you can get around them. Some of them are really easy and some of them are just, they have real ridiculous gimmicks. It's still a fantastic showcase of the PlayStation 5 hardware. It's a beautiful game. If you love action RPGs, if you love high fantasy, if you love just brutal difficulty and violence, I mean, it's going to be right up your alley. Even though I got the platinum in Demon Souls, I still want to play it more. Granted, I'm in the middle of Dark Souls 3 and Sekiro at the moment, and so I can't really spare any time to go back and reminisce in Boletaria anymore. It's still a great game, and once I've got all these other Souls games behind me, I'll probably end up jumping back in and making some new characters just because it's such a smooth, fun, very rewarding experience. All right, we got 2 more games on the list, and I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, where's that game? It's time for that game. Number 2 is God of War. And I know this also is going to be a controversial opinion. Why isn't it number 1? I'll tell you why. Because it's not my favorite. That's why it's not number 1. But oh my goodness, what a fantastic game. This one easily has just as much hype as The Last of Us, if not more. Except God of War delivers in spades. This is an absolute must-play game, and honestly, I wasn't sold on how great a game this was until I was probably halfway through it. Things of note in God of War that are amazing: the story, it's simple and grand in scale at the same time. Mom's dying wish, take my ashes to the top of this mountain. And so father and son have to work together, get closer to each other, and make it happen. And along the way, all kinds of crazy stuff happens. And it's the simplest type of story, but it works so well. And what I really like about God of War's story is it's got heart and it's authentic, and you can really relate to a lot of the characters and their struggles and their concerns. But it's got a great sense of humor too. The dynamic between Kratos, Atreus, and Mimir when you're traveling around the world, the 3 of them complement each other so well, with the gruff, tough guy attitude of Kratos, the curiosity of Atreus, and the wisecracking sass of the head hanging from Kratos' belt in Mimir. It makes for some really good dialogue. And the Dwarf Brothers as well. They bring some really good lightheartedness to break up the serious nature of the game. But you've also got epic Dragon Ball Z style fights, you know, when it's Kratos versus Baldur. I mean, you're just punching each other and flying around and just doing all these epic moves. It's something out of an anime, but somehow works really well in this type of game. I think the thing that I loved the most about it was just the cinematic nature of it. I know I harped on The Last of Us for being more like a movie than a game. The thing about God of War that works with that is that you feel like you're a part of the action. You're playing it while the action is unfolding. Whereas in The Last of Us, you'll sit and you'll watch some scenes, and then they cede control back to you, and then it becomes a game again. Whereas when you're playing God of War, you are Kratos. You are in control. And the action it's always happening. You've got to keep your hands on that controller because you never know when something's going to pop up and it's like, oh shoot, I got to press this button and, you know, stab this dragon in the mouth or whatever. It's a roller coaster ride. And the fact that it has a single camera shot the whole time, an uncut single camera shot the whole time, it just blows my mind. I realized this about 2 or 3 hours into the game, and I couldn't stop marveling at it. I was waiting for them to cut the camera at some point and just be like, aha, they finally did it, but they didn't. The reason I gave it number 2, despite all this praise, it lacked that certain something that just made me want to come back for more. It wasn't one of those games that I just constantly thought about, like when I'm at work or when I'm at the grocery store, like I gotta get home and play this game. God of War wasn't really like that for me. I enjoyed playing it once I decided to play it, but I didn't have that insatiable urge to jump back in and play it. That might seem unfair, but that's just how I feel about the game. The combat and the action and the gameplay were really good and solid, but it just didn't hook me to the point where it was just addictive. And I think that when I explain game number 1, you'll kind of understand what I mean. Without further ado, what could possibly be better than the games I've already mentioned? What on the PlayStation could outdo The Last of Us, Bloodborne, Ratchet and Clank, Demon's Souls, and God of War? I'll tell you what can do better than all of these put together. SpiderMan. SpiderMan Remastered is one of the best games I've ever played in my life. And I truly mean that. As soon as I started playing the game, it was like I was 9 years old all over again. This is the game that I have always wanted. Okay? I was obsessed with Spider-Man when I was a kid. When Maximum Carnage came out on the Sega Genesis, I was over at my friend's house after school every day playing that game with him. When Spider-Man came out for the PlayStation 4, I was this close to breaking and getting a PS4 just to play Spider-Man. And when the reviews came out and I saw all the praise that everybody was heaping on the game, I was so close to breaking, but I just couldn't justify spending hundreds of dollars on a system just to play one game that I really wanted to play. And so I waited. And thank goodness I did wait, because when the PS5 came out, I got Miles Morales, the special edition that came with Spider-Man Remastered. It's just fun. And it's the perfect superhero game because you really feel like you're Spider-Man. You can go anywhere in Manhattan. And it's actually Manhattan. Like, the streets are the same and the scale is the same. You can see all the buildings and you can web sling around. There's random crimes happening all over the place that you can choose to ignore or engage in. There's J. Jonah Jameson popping up on the radio saying horrible things about Spider-Man. You get all these great Spider-Man villains to fight against. A fantastic story. All these wonderful mini games and sort of side puzzles and things like that to keep you distracted. You know, the backpacks hidden all over the city. All kinds of awesome combo moves. The costumes. All the gadgets. It's too much. It's such a good game. I could pick it up right now and just swing around the city fighting crime and just have a blast. It's got that thing. It's got that it factor that I'm at work and all I could think about was, I gotta get home and play Spider-Man. So if you like Spider-Man or video games in general, I mean, this is a must play. So that's my list. Spider-Man, God of War, Demon's Souls, Ratchet & Clank, Rift Apart, Bloodborne, and The Last of Us Remastered. Like I said, these are all really fun games. I enjoyed playing them all, and I'm really glad that I was able to beat them all. And so this is all how I feel about each game individually, but also I had to compare them to each other. And, you know, The Last of Us and Bloodborne just can't compete with God of War and Spider. Let's face it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please tell me your thoughts in the comments. What is your favorite PlayStation exclusive game? What's your least favorite PlayStation exclusive? Feel free to pick these 6 games and put them in your own order in the comments section, because I'm curious to see what everybody else thinks. As I continue to play more PlayStation exclusive games and continue to beat them, I will be revising this list in the future. So this list will be back, and every future PlayStation game that I beat is going to fit somewhere within this. So look forward to that in the future, and I hope to see you next time on...